Learning isn't just for school, it's for survival. A surgeon can't Google the next step mid operation. A pilot can't kinda remember what to do when an engine fails. This isn't just about experts, it's also about you. When you step into a final exam or stand up to pitch an important client, your brain can't just kinda remember. When life gets real, your memory has to deliver instantly. Make It Stick. The Science of Successful Learning is a book about that kind of learning, the kind that performs under pressure. But here's the problem. We've all been taught learning methods that science proves are ineffective, such as rereading, highlighting, and focusing on one topic at a time. In this video, I'll break down 15 science-backed strategies that will transform how you learn. Let's start by busting the biggest myth that rereading is the best way to learn. Imagine two students. One spends an hour rereading and highlighting a chapter. The other spends that hour quizzing herself with flashcards. The first student feels confident. Everything looks familiar on the page. The second feels a bit unsure because recalling facts is hard. Come test day, who performs better? The quizzer does. Rereading may feel productive, but it only creates an illusion of knowing. True learning happens when you pull information from your memory, not just recognize it on a page. This act of retrieving strengthens the knowledge, a phenomenon researchers called the testing effect. Even if it's challenging, every time you recall something, you're like a weightlifter doing a rep. You build a stronger memory. So, here's how you can apply this. After reading, close the book and jot down or recite the main ideas from memory. Quiz yourself regularly instead of just reviewing notes. This way, you'll quickly discover what you truly know and what you don't. But testing yourself once isn't enough. To make that knowledge truly stick, you have to come back to it again and again at the right time. And that brings us to the second piece of the puzzle, which is space it out, don't cram. Think of planting seeds in a garden. If you dump a bucket of water all at once, the soil can't absorb it. But watering a little every day makes the plants grow strong. Learning works the same way. Instead of cramming everything in one day, spread your study sessions over time. When you space out practice, your brain gets a chance to start forgetting a bit between sessions. And that sounds bad, but it's good. When you revisit the material after a break, you have to work a little to remember, and that effort reinforces the memory. It's like letting muscles recover between workouts so they grow stronger. Spacing also keeps learning interesting, not exhausting. You'll remember more after 5 one-hour sessions on different days than 5 hours at once, even if the total study time is the same. So here's how you can apply this. Break up your learning into short, frequent sessions. Make a simple schedule to review material, say 30 minutes a day for a week, instead of 3 hours in one go. Give yourself a day or two to forget, then relearn. Your retention will improve and you won't feel so burnt out. All right, spacing helps to make what you learn stick better in your memory, but remembering alone is not enough. You also need to recognize when and how to use it. That's where our third strategy comes in. Mix it up for mastery. If you wanted to get good at basketball, would you practice only dribbling the ball for hours and ignore shooting and passing? Of course not. You'd mix up those skills. The same goes for learning anything. Mix different topics or problem types in one session. It might feel easier to focus on one kind of problem at a time, but research shows that shuffling between subjects or skills leads to deeper mastery. Why? When you constantly switch, your brain must figure out what strategy to use, like a detective, sorting different cases. This effort makes learning harder in the moment, but ultimately it helps you tell concepts apart and apply the right tools to the right problem. People who mix different topics remember things better than those who study one thing over and over. So, how can you apply this? When you're studying, don't just go through the chapters in order. Jump around. Do some math, then some reading, then back to math. It might feel harder at first, but you'll remember things much better when it matters. Look, I know mixing things up makes learning harder, and that's exactly the point. Because when your brain has to work harder, it remembers better. And that's where the fourth strategy comes in. Embrace the hard parts. Imagine you're learning to ride a bike and someone always holds the bike steady for you. You never lose balance, never fall. Sounds nice. But this way, you'll never learn how to balance yourself either. A bit of struggling and even falling helps you ride better next time. Learning works similarly. Don't skip the hard parts. When something feels challenging, that's often a good sign that your brain is stretching. Scientists call these desirable difficulties. These challenges boost learning in the long run. If learning feels too easy, you might just be cruising on autopilot and not learning much. So, if your studying feels too smooth, challenge yourself a little more. Quiz yourself. Try explaining the topic. Struggle with it. Let it feel hard. Then win that fight. That's how you build lasting learning. That mental sweat means you're truly learning, and it will pay off later. Struggling through hard concepts is a sign of real progress. But how can you tell if you've actually mastered something? There's a simple test. Try explaining it to someone else. Which brings us to our fifth strategy. Teach it. Explain in simple words. Einstein once said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. If you can teach an idea or explain it simply, it means you get it. For example, pretend you have to explain what you're learning to a friend or even a curious 9-year-old. In doing so, you'll find out if you don't understand something. The authors of Make It Stick suggest elaboration, a fancy word for putting ideas in your own words and linking them to what you already know. Say you're learning about compound interest. Instead of memorizing the definition, imagine planting a tree that grows fruit. Every year that fruit drops seeds, and those seeds grow new trees. Soon, your forest is growing itself. That's compound growth. By processing the concept in a personal, concrete way, it sticks better than if you just memorized a definition. Explaining things simply forces you to organize your thoughts and spot what you don't know. As a result, you understand the material on a deeper level. So, here's a tip for you. Whenever you learn something new, take a moment to summarize it in your own words as if you're teaching someone else. You can write this in a few sentences or say it out loud. Try to teach a friend or just an imaginary class. Simplify the idea until even a child can understand. 6. Use all your senses. Forget learning styles. Ever said, I'm a visual learner, or I'm an auditory learner? That mindset can hold you back. Yes, we all have learning preferences. Maybe you like videos more than reading, but that doesn't mean you can't learn another way. Research shows learning styles aren't fixed. And here's another thing. It's not about matching how you prefer to learn. It's about matching how the content is best taught. Want to learn geography? You need to see the map. That's visual. Want to understand poetry? You need to hear the rhythm. That's auditory. Everyone does better when the format fits the subject. So stop limiting yourself to one learning style. That's like only training one arm at the gym. So, next time you study, mix up your learning styles. Read something, then watch it, then explain it, or draw it. Use visuals, sounds, movement, the whole toolkit. 7. The illusion of knowing. You're reading a textbook and everything feels familiar. Yeah, I know this. You reread it, highlight it, and feel confident. But come test time, blank. That confidence, it was a lie. Familiarity tricks your brain into thinking it understands. This is called the illusion of knowing. Real knowing isn't recognizing something, it's being able to recall it from memory. At UCLA, professors were asked to find the fire extinguisher nearest their office. Most couldn't. Why? They walked past it every day, but never used it. Just like rereading notes over and over doesn't mean you'll remember them when it counts. Your brain doesn't remember what it sees, it remembers what it does. So, when learning feels easy, check again. Close the book and try to explain the concept from memory. If you get stuck, great! That's what you need to work on. Don't just read it over and over. Instead, practice pulling the information from your memory. 8. Your brain is like a muscle. It grows. Do you know the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset? With a growth mindset, you believe that skills and intelligence can be developed. But with a fixed mindset, you believe that you're either born smart or you're not. When you adopt a growth mindset, challenges become opportunities. For example, if you struggle in French class, a growth mindset says, I'm not there yet, but if I keep at it, I'll get better. But a fixed mindset might say, I'll never get this. Why bother? Starting from today, when something is hard, remind yourself, my brain is growing with this challenge. Replace I can't do this with I can't do this yet. Embrace challenges and persist. Over time, you'll look back and notice how much you've improved. 9. Make mistakes on purpose. Let's say I want to teach you the capital cities of countries. I ask you a question, and when you don't know, I make you guess it. I don't tell the answer right away. For example, I ask, what's the capital city of the US? You start guessing. New York? Maybe California? Even if you get it wrong, when I tell you it's Washington, D.C., you'll remember it better. Why? Because the failed attempt created mental hooks. Our brains remember what we struggle with. It's like getting lost in a city. The next time, you never forget the route. Trying and failing isn't a waste. It helps your brain remember better. It feels uncomfortable, but it creates deeper learning. So, before you read a chapter or watch a tutorial, pause. What do I already know about this? Or, can I guess how it works? Make a prediction or try to explain it. You might be wrong, but you'll remember it better. 10. Understand the whole idea. Don't just memorize facts. Imagine being dropped into a chess match with zero idea of how the pieces move. You memorize where they are, but can't play. Why? Because you don't know how everything works together. That's the difference between memorizing facts and having a clear picture of how things work. A chess master doesn't just memorize the location of those 32 pieces on the board. They see a clear picture of how to move those 32 pieces to win the game. So, when you're studying, don't just memorize facts. You need to understand how they all fit into the bigger picture. For example, if you're learning programming, don't just memorize the code. Understand how the codes connect to build a program. 11. Learning that lasts is built, not born. Many people think, I'm just not good at math, or I have a terrible memory. But science says that's nonsense. Learning isn't a talent, it's a skill you can build. The authors tell stories of struggling students who turned things around not by studying more, but by studying smarter, using retrieval, spacing, and reflection. Real learners aren't born different, they just build different habits. The truth is, your brain isn't fixed. Each time you learn deeply, you're rewiring your mind. So don't aim to learn faster. Aim to learn better. Start small. Choose one powerful strategy, like daily self-quizzing, and make it part of your routine. Every time you use it, you're not just remembering more, you're becoming a stronger learner. 12. Forget motivation, use the system. Motivation feels good, but it's unreliable. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's gone. But systems? They work no matter how you feel. Build learning routines that don't depend on mood or willpower. Just like brushing your teeth, you don't need to be inspired to do it. The best learners don't wait to feel like it, they build routines. That's how they stay consistent. So, here's how you can apply this tip. Create a study system. Pick the same time each day to do one retrieval session. Set reminders, use flashcards. When you follow a system like this, you remove decision fatigue and learning becomes automatic. 13. Take some time to reflect. In learning, sometimes you have to reflect on what works and what doesn't. Take the example of a neurosurgeon, Ebersold, who always takes time to reflect. Many times after difficult surgeries, he'd go home at night and think about what happened and what he could do better. How can I take a bigger bite with my needle or a smaller bite? What if I modified this way or that way? The next surgery, he'd try those new approaches and see if they worked better. For my YouTube channel, I also ask my team to write reflection notes after each video. We discuss what went right, what went wrong, and how to produce a better video next time. I'd suggest you do the same in your learning. If something doesn't work, ask yourself, how could I make this a little bit better next time? 14. Be patient. There was a study in 1970 that involved 600 children to see if they could resist temptation. The researcher put marshmallows on a desk. Then, children were brought into the room one by one, and they were left alone in the room. Each of them was told that they could eat the marshmallow now, or if they waited 15 minutes, they would be rewarded with a second marshmallow. The researchers then observed these students through a mirror. Some popped the marshmallows into their mouths immediately, and some were able to wait. They did whatever they could, like covering their eyes with their hands, talking to themselves, singing, and so on. Only 1/3 of the children managed to resist the temptation long enough to get the second marshmallow. 40 years later, they found out that those children who managed to resist temptation grew up to be more successful in school and in their careers. According to the author, this marshmallow study shows us something big about life. The kids who didn't eat the marshmallow right away showed they could fight off temptation. And this discipline is key to success in life. Look, when you see great performances by an expert in any field, like a pianist, golfer, or programmer, you have to understand that they have spent thousands of hours in focused practice. This requires self-discipline and patience. So, if you want to be really good at something, you have to discipline yourself and be patient for quite some time. 15. Don't be afraid of failure. Having a fear of failure can reduce your performance because you're under pressure. According to the author, students who fear making errors when taking tests may actually do worse on the test because of their anxiety. This is simply because a larger portion of their working memory gets occupied with worrying thoughts like, how am I doing? Am I making mistakes? By constantly worrying, your working memory stays occupied. As a result, less space is left for actually solving the problems. Look, I know you also understand the negative impact of worrying, but understanding is not enough. You need practical tips that work in real life. If you're the type of person who worries a lot, then check out the video you see on your screen. It's the summary of How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. The book was published in 1948 over 70 years ago, but to this day, it still remains one of the most famous and most practical books ever written on overcoming worry. Thanks for watching, and I hope it was a useful video.